things to talk about because I'm going to incorporate several of our methodologies into one concept. And that concept is value wins. And what value wins is it's a way to be more effective in your business by being more strategic about where you're putting your time, how you're putting your business out there, and ultimately how you're serving your clients. So that's what we'll be covering. Again, if you don't know Shiftco, we train business founders how to grow their business and maximize their impact. 91.5% of the founders using the methods doubled their revenue. 98% retention rate month over month, which we're very proud of. Love, love, love what I do. And for me, everything comes back to this man. This was my first mentor. This is my grandfather. And when I was 5, he had a juice bar in Sarasota, Florida. And I won't go into the story because we don't have time, but his lesson to me at 5 years old, he handed me this stack of $1 bills and he said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "No, Grandpa." He said, "Terri, this is profit." And he said, "Profit is the tip your customers give you when you serve them well." And that lesson has stayed with me. I'm in my 60s, so I've been doing the business thing for 4 decades. I've been a founder for over 25 years, multiple times. And I started a portfolio of companies that are all purpose-based. They're kind of coming up on the screen. Shiftco is one of those businesses. Today, I spend about 70% of my time in Shiftco because I'm really called to do this work. In addition to those businesses, plus some others, we also invest kind of like a purposeful Shark Tank. Our largest investment is with a company called Your Izzy. It's a zero waste makeup and skincare line. And my whole life is dedicated to helping grow good things. So that's a little bit about me and Shiftco. I want to get right in today's topic. And that is really this idea that you grow your business when you combine value with impact. And I'm going to give you a formula for that that starts first with understanding what a value-based business model is. Secondly, I'm going to give you 2 value wins techniques. In number 1 and number 2, if you've attended some of our other events, I'm going to pull those pieces together and show you how they connect. And then number 3 is probably one of my favorite things, and that is how do you align purpose and profit together to create impact, but doing so through what's called a brand experience. So that's what's on deck today, starting first with a value-based business model. Now, I've been trying to come up with different names for this, but for now, I'm going to stick with value-based business model. What do I mean by that? The concept of value in business is not unique. It's benefits divided by cost. So when a lead reaches out to you and they want to learn more about your services. So Gashel, you reached out to us and you wanted to learn more about Shiftco. And now I'm reaching out to you and I want to learn more about your business. What I'm looking for is what is the benefit of what you do divided by the cost. I'm not looking at who you are. I'm not looking at why you're better. I'm not looking at understanding all the nits and the gnats of everything that you do. What I'm doing is I'm assessing value. What are the benefits of what you do divided by the cost? If you can win that value equation, that's called a high value equation, your business will grow. You'll get lots and lots of referrals. Customers will stay and or buy again. The key is how do you win the value equation? It starts first with knowing who and where your target market is. 50 or 60% of the time when I'm working with the founder, they are networking and going places where their target market is not. And can you put yourself on mute there? And Lisa, maybe you could manage that mute while we're going. So you've got to go where your target market is. And that is as much of an art as it is a science, but it also is a discipline. Then you start wondering, what is their problem? What Gashel did is he actually showed me in the way that he worked how he could solve one of my problems. He didn't tell me why he was great. He didn't tell me really a whole lot about what he did. He just basically showed me how he could solve one of my problems. That is powerful. Third is now you start thinking about what the benefits are. Well, Terri, if you solved this problem, you could do X, Y, Z. That combination is very, very powerful. And then you think about how you can deliver those benefits. The thing that I like to point out when we're talking about value and a value-based business model is it starts with intention. What do you really want to create by building this business or building this service? That starting with intention is paramount. Couple of things about that. This is not new. There's lots of people doing this. This is from Global Entrepreneurship Monitor's most recent study. They study all of entrepreneurship. They've been doing this in 1999 in almost every country in the world. And they track 4 primary motivations for why people start a business: making a difference, which is blue; building wealth and income, which is orange; family tradition, which is kind of dark blue, black; and light blue, which is earn a living. I like to point out this making a difference, that blue line, that pretty blue, that royal blue, that motivation is the highest it has ever been since they've studied it. What's happening is through more women entering entrepreneurship and through a younger generation entering entrepreneurship, they are setting a different intention when they start a business. They don't just want to make money, they also want to make a difference. And that combination is what we call a value-based business model, and it's intentional. You don't do it by accident. Here's a couple of examples. Patagonia, one of the first recognizable value-based business models. Ben & Jerry's, 1978. Tom's, 2006. Warby Parker, 2010. Bombas, 2013. And then one of ours, which is one of our investments, is Your Izzy, 2020. In every single one of these cases, their intention was to build something of value, not just build something that they could sell. Today, our research indicates that over 22% of all companies are operating with this value wins idea. Now, here's how you think about a value-based values wins model, because it starts with what is your intention. In a traditional business, when they build a product, their intention is, will someone buy it? A value approach is, will it solve a problem? So do some reflecting as you're thinking about your business. Are you taking a value approach? Are you thinking about how your business solves problems? Secondly, with pricing, a traditional business says, what will someone pay? The value approach is, how much is it worth? And then with success, a traditional business says, how much money can I make? A value approach is, can I make an impact? So that's the intentional part behind value wins and a value-based business model. Next up, I want to give you 2 techniques that you can implement right away that are value wins mindset perspectives. First of all, you have to recognize that today trust is at an all-time low. It's the biggest challenge that every founder has. That is why it takes more marketing than it has ever taken before. That is why you don't have clients giving you a quick yes. That is why people are suspicious when you have reviews, because trust is at an all-time low. Rather than allowing that to disturb you, use it as a competitive advantage. If trust is at an all-time low, this is the Edelman Trust Barometer 25 versus 26, of which US and Canada fell further than they were last year, and they were pretty low last year. It's going the wrong direction. How do I think about that? This, to me, is the advantage that a small business has. I believe it's a competitive advantage and a small business differentiator. More buyers are saying they would rather buy from a small business they trust, regardless of a new and trendy competition. This is the highest this has ever been. And loyal customers will spend 67% more than a new customer. So small businesses actually have a competitive advantage right now in 2026 because consumers and buyers are saying they trust you more than a large corporation. 80% of customers are saying, I'll continue to buy from a brand that I trust, regardless of the next newfangled thing. We've never seen this before. Again, I'm in my 60s. I've been doing business for 4 decades. Never seen this statistic as high. So small businesses have a competitive advantage. You don't need to worry that you're not looking big or things along those lines. what you need to really think about is building trust. So how do you do that? I call it doubling down on doing good. If trust is at an all-time low, offer satisfaction guarantees. Create low-risk pricing or performance models. What does that mean? Offer your service and then just say satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, I'll give you your money back. Obviously, you have to put some parameters in that, but publicize that. Secondly, focus on value plus building relationships. Rather than thinking you need to spend more marketing dollars, how can you build relationships with your with collaborators that can help you grow? I recently did this where I partnered with a couple of other SHIFCO members where we share a target market, and we put together a group of people where we have our shared target market and we're collaborating and making introductions to each other. Third is showcase authentic reviews. Ask for them, set them up, put them out there on Facebook or Google. Set up authentic reviews and ask for reviews. And then, of course, modify your business model to build trust and add value. So that's number one. Number two, of course, is also one of my favorites, and that is grow your good. I'm going to give you strategies on how to do that. The number one thing that you have to do to grow your good is you have to 3x the awareness of your business. And I mean 3x. More people need to be aware that you exist. How are you going to do that? What's your plan to do that? Double your partners and collaborators, like I just mentioned. Tell stories of your impact now. My methodology for that came from being a lifelong marketer that basically gave up on marketing. If you really think about how marketing works, it's like a funnel, and we've heard of click funnels and lead magnets, which I really do not like those words because they set the wrong intention. The way that they work is it starts, if you think of a funnel, awareness. Awareness is big. It's the top of the funnel. The second level, if I have to 3x that, then I need people that are interested. And then some of those are going to want what I have, and some of those are going to actually buy. The challenge that you have with the funnel is the goal of a funnel is to get someone to buy. That is not authentic. People can tell when they're in a funnel. For example, those of you that registered for this event, some of you are here today, many of you are listening in later. I bet you're thinking you're going to start getting spammed. We're going to try to sell to you. You're going to find we never do that. We never sell to anybody because our goal is not to get you to buy. Our goal is to make sure that you're aware, then interested, and then if you want to have a conversation, we're going to look for a way to collaborate. How can we find a win-win? And the idea behind this next slide that I'm going to show you, which is a core piece of what we teach in SHIFCO, is I found that when I became a value-based business, which was 2008, most of the marketing that I had done the majority of my career no longer worked. Why? Because it wasn't authentic. So I changed the whole recipe. And I began to use marketing to be relationship building. How that works is we start with awareness and interest, but rather than getting you to buy, what I'm thinking about is how can I connect with you and build a relationship? So we call this the 4 F's. First, we're friends. So when you heard about this event, you visited the website, you were now aware. You signed up for the event and or attended, you're interested. That does not mean that you want to buy, but what it means is you're aware and interested. Invariably, I will have people who've attended events refer new members to me. It wasn't right for them, but they thought it was really amazing and they referred somebody else to us, and that person joined. So you want to grow the awareness and interest, and you want a lot of people that are aware and interested that are friends who follow. Then the desire and act happens over time. You serve people until they buy. You don't try to get them to buy. You basically build a relationship with them, cultivate that relationship, look for ways to serve people. When I am talking to somebody that's a fan that hasn't yet become a member, I am looking for ways that I can help you grow your business before you ever join SHIFCO. Anybody that knows me knows that I do that on a regular basis. And I do that with every single member. I'm looking for ways that I can refer you. I usually will try your product if you have a product. because I'm interested in the relationship. I'm not interested in the sale. That is how a value-based business speaks. Now, the most important piece is not the close. The most important piece are these first two steps. That's what you have to 3X. You have to 3X awareness and interest. I promise you, if you will get good at this, and we have lots of lessons on our YouTube page for you to check out. Obviously, we teach this if you are a member, but if you get great at friends who follow and your relationship pipeline goes up, you're never going to have to worry about converting sales because you won the first sale. That's the sale that is the hardest to win, but it is the one that is most important. Now, when it comes to telling your story, which is a big part of how you grow awareness, let's say you're networking. Number one, you have to go where your target market is. Number two is you want to introduce yourself in a way that speaks to their problems. You don't want to talk about what you do. And then you want to ask questions about them. Be genuinely curious. The more a prospect is talking, the more interesting you become. And again, anybody that knows me knows that this is how I interact with people. I'm not ever pitching. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to know you, and I'm trying to understand what it is that you need. And then here's an example. When I introduce myself, I say I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact, or I guide corporate teams to communicate more effectively to improve their performance. We're going to go deeper on this how do you tell your story part rather than talking about yourself. But I want to remind everybody, if when you're talking about yourself, people are not listening. And if they're not listening, they're not going to become interested. So you have to change that dynamic and learn how to talk about what you do in a way that causes people to lean in. Here's an example. I have the best job in the world. Pause. If you were introducing yourself in a networking event and you said that, you would get people's attention because people don't usually talk like that. And then if you said, I guide corporate teams to communicate more effectively to improve their performance. If I'm a corporate team and I'm struggling with communication, but what I really want is my team to improve their performance, I want to now talk to you. And I had this happen on this networking event, this group that we put together. As I introduced myself, I didn't say, I didn't give the long list of my title and my background, none of that. I just basically had this little simple phrase. And all of a sudden I saw my LinkedIn, people connecting with me on LinkedIn. There's a formula for how you do this. One is you introduce who you serve in the first part. Secondly, you talk about what you do that solves their problem, not what you do. And then lastly is why it matters. So that's an example. I'll give you another example. Again, this is mine. I love what I do. Pause. I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact. And the words that are capitalized are there for emphasis. Who I serve as founders. What I do that solves their problem is grow their business. Why it matters is to triple their impact. And again, go back and listen to this recording and practice coming up with that statement. Lisa will drop my calendar in the chat. I'll be more than happy to give you a free session to help you come up with that. But the whole idea is to stop talking about what you do and who you are and all that stuff and just focus on speaking to the buyer about what they care about. If you do that, you will win the first sale. More people will be interested in what you do, not ready to buy. And I promise you, if you get more people that are interested in what you do over time, if you keep serving them, they will buy. And the better you get at friends who follow that first sale, the more leads you'll have. The more leads you have, the more people will buy. It's proven. Last but not least, my favorite part is how do you bring purpose and profit together to create impact through what's known as a brand experience? So here's what I can say. In 2009, I started this Purposeful Shark Tank. Great idea. I'm going to invest in purposeful businesses. I failed for years. It was one of the biggest colossal failures of my life. The number one reason that I failed is now what I call meaningful money. There was part of me, and it was bigger than I chose to admit, that believed I could do meaningful work or create financial success. Our whole society has taught us this. Our whole society has taught us that capitalism is bad and making money is bad, and greedy people are focused on making money. And yes, that is true. But what I had to learn in order to do this is I had to change that or to an and. And now, today, 2026, it's taken me probably the last 8 years to really get that or out of the way, where now I believe I can do meaningful work and create financial success. And I'm not 100% there, as our CFO would tell you. I frequently give away too much for free, and I frequently serve people too long, and all sorts of the things that mess with us. But you've got to train your mind and your nervous system to believe that you can do something meaningful that also makes money. So that's the first part, is training yourself. And I mean training yourself to know that that's an and. But the second part is to have a value wins business. You can't fake it. You can't pretend. What do I mean by that? Great companies don't start great. None of my companies, even though they looked great on the outside, started great. They evolve over time. You have to start where you are. Netta, I'm going to use you as an example because I was so impressed when we met. You had joined an event just like this, and I knew you were just getting started. Netta, is it okay if I share the story? Because I was so impressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she told me what she did, just like you did. You guys saw at the beginning of the call, and I'm like, I'm really curious. And so I reached out and I said, I want to learn more about what you do. We had a call. It wasn't about Shifco, it was about her. And I said, I'm going to buy your product. Now, what I expected, honestly, she's just starting. And I was like, the product came from me. It was wrapped in the most beautiful package. I got the sample, and it's beautiful, and it describes all the pieces. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. It's absolutely beautiful. And so I'm like, well, the packaging is great. Maybe she's a packaging expert. And then I opened up the product and I tried it, and it's absolutely amazing. And I use it every day. Like literally my whole office smells like the Queen version, right? That's my current favorite. That blew my mind. And so what I knew is Netta not only had built a great product, but she cared about the work that she was doing. Now, the reason why I'd like to point that out is, although the packaging is great, Netta doesn't have it all figured out. She's got customer service she has to figure out. She's got shipping she has to figure out. There's a lot of things that have to be figured out. And what we do is we think there's something wrong with us because we don't have it perfected. And what I want to say is your business will evolve over time. It will go from this part is great, the rest of it is not so great, right? To this part is great, these parts are good, 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 that one's not so great. And then it's going to be great, great, good, 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 And then it's going to be great, 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 good, 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 and no longer average. And then it's going to go great, 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 good. Okay. So just take the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out. All of the great brands that I put up there a minute ago when we were talking about value-based businesses, Patagonia and Warby Parker, one of my favorites. All my glasses now are Warby Parker glasses. They didn't start out great. They had problems. They had to figure things out, but they evolve over time. And I've studied this evolution, and I want to show you how that works. So, and I call this purposeful alignment. The only founders that I work with today are purposeful. They are meant to do this work. They were born just like Netta. She was born to bring this product to market. And when you're talking about purposeful alignment, what that means is a company, first of all, has to let its potential customers become aware. That's what we talked about a minute ago with the friend, follower, fan, fanatic, the first sale. What you are doing when you're doing that is you are setting a brand expectation. So when I visited her website, okay, and I saw the product on her website, she set an expectation and I bought the product. Now I'm going to come back to the experience here in a minute. I didn't have as high of an expectation because I knew it was a small business that was just getting started. So marketing is not necessarily what generates the value. Okay. Marketing sets an expectation for the value, but it is not the value. The problem is if you don't do the marketing, you'll never get any customers in order to improve upon the value. So you have to first win on that previous thing that we talked about, winning that first sale. You've got to win on that first. But that's only part of the equation. The next part of the equation is marketing is setting an expectation, right? So in Netta's case, and is it, how do you pronounce it? I can't say it. Apiarian home?
Apiarian home.
Apiarian home. It's going to
Hmm.
take me forever to learn how to say that. I call you the bee lady.
I love it.
And so I had an expectation of what I was going to get. But when I received the product, the brand experience exceeded my expectations. As a new small business, I told her right away, I'm like, oh my God, I'm blown away. It was the best packaging. You need to drop your website into the chat for these guys to check it out. Netta, mind blowing, the best packaging I've ever seen in a new business in my entire career. Her brand experience exceeded my expectation. So much so that I said, I'm going to find a way to make sure that you make enough money so that you join Shiftco because you belong here. And I'm going to find a way to make that happen. And I did that, right, Netta? Because I mean, it's blown away. The product is so good. It was the brand expectation and the brand experience that exceeded my expectation. Now, you cannot get there overnight. Netta, I know you've been working on this for a long time. You've put a lot of thought and a lot of sweat into it. It didn't just happen overnight. But that combination, when the perception of value is cemented based on the customer's experience, everybody's going to be talking about what you do. Goshel, that was what you did with me when you're now a Shiftco member and you said, Terri, let me show you how I can solve this problem for you. You didn't pitch me, you set an expectation and then you delivered something that exceeded that expectation. The brand experience was better than I expected. Now, I'm going to give you an example of where I learned how to do this. You're going to recognize this brand, but prior to starting Share on Purpose and Shiftco and all the stuff we have today, I had a 40-person marketing consulting company. And in 2006, a company hired us and they said, we're the number one product in our category. We have the most market share. We have 87% market share. A competitor knocked off our packaging and we're losing market share fast. We need you to come in and do an ad campaign. So we did our research and their target market was women who shop for snacks. We did our research and we found that the problem that buyer had is they need healthy snacks for their family, but they also want them to taste yummy. The name of the company was Fresherized Foods. The name of the product was called Avomex. The two drivers was they needed it to be healthy and they needed it to taste great. Okay, perfect. We were like, okay, we know what to communicate. But then we took it one step further to exceed their expectations. And we did a little study because we thought the name Avomex didn't really communicate that. And lo and behold, we were right. And the product, which was in the grocery store, looked like this. The word Avomex was there. And we convinced them to allow us to put stickers on there that said, help us name our product. Today, you know that product as Holy Guacamole. They were so successful. They eventually sold for millions upon millions of dollars. Is a fascinating campaign using the same methodology that we teach in Shiftco. And this is an example of what we mean. But here's the thing. If you had purchased their product with this beautiful packaging, the name Holy Guacamole instead of Avo Classic, the way it looks fresh and appealing, if you had bought the product and you expected it to taste as good as its packaging, look at the packaging on the right. I mean, that looks yummy if you like guacamole, right? I mean, that looks great. It sounds great. It looks great. If you got it home and you stuck your chip in it and you tasted it and it didn't taste great, what would you do? Well, I'll never buy that again. But because it tasted great, all we did was just set up a page where people could show recipes and talk about how they were using it. And all of a sudden, that page grew to millions and millions of followers talking about the cool recipes they made with holy guacamole. It spread like wildfire. Sales took off. Why? Because we understood what the buyer valued. But if the product didn't taste great, in spite of the name and advertising, what would have happened? Would have died on the vine. Okay. Great example with Shifco. When we started, we were not getting the kind of results that we are getting today. Here's our differentiation strategy. Our buyer wants impact and results. It's the number one thing, followed by community experience. We will not stop until every founder who wants to grow their business and their impact reaches its highest potential. We're relentless. It's our purpose. So this is what I mean by purposeful alignment. I was put on this earth. Our team was here. We're all here to help founders grow. But when we first started, because we measure our success based on our founders that are working with us and we relentlessly pursue strategies, the first year was only 53.4%. That wasn't what we wanted. We wanted to be 100. So we chipped away at it. Every year it got a little bit better. We added something. Every single year we're adding something to get that number as high as possible. We are relentless. That's what I mean by purposeful alignment. And it's what I mean that purpose is your differentiator, but it's not in promotion about your purpose. I don't talk about my purpose. I live it. I live it every single day, and I make sure that that brand experience gets a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. So we're living that value. So what is value? Value is the benefits of what you do. You market it first. That's the brand expectation. Then you have to deliver it divided by the cost. When you win that, you get what's called a high value equation. It's why more than 65% of our members came from a referral. We don't have to do a lot of marketing because we have a high value equation business. How do you do that? First, you have to know who and where your target market is. You've got to go to them. Don't wait for them to come to you. This is not a build it and they will come. You've got to go to them. Secondly, you really need to understand what their problem is. Stop talking about what you do and listen to their problem. 3 is understand the benefits that they want. I know my buyer wants results, but they also want a great community experience. 4 is you think about how you can deliver those benefits week in and week out and just get a little bit better each time. All of that starts with intention. What do you want to create by building this business? What is your intention for this business? What is the problem you're here to solve? What really matters to you? Here's the 4 steps for how you do that. Really ask yourself, why are you building this business? That's the intention. Like, get clear on that. Why am I doing this? Building a business is not easy. It's not. I'm not going to lie to you and say it is. It's hard. I think it's hard, maybe second only to having children. And I can't even raise my dog, so I don't know how anybody has children, but it's hard. Secondly, what is the value you want to create for the buyer? Define that. Be clear about that. 3, how do you now start marketing based on the value you provide? Don't talk about what you do. Talk about the problems you solve and the benefits. And then lastly is perfect delivering value. So the brand experience matches or exceeds the brand expectation. I invite you to join our next 2 events. On August 27th is Founder Productivity Hacks. On September 8th is Gather and Grow. I'll stop the recording and take any questions.